Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of GAA News. This is episode 4, and Luke, really a massive story just broke as we're recording. Davy Fitzgerald, well, he's set apparently to become the next Galway Hurling Manager with a Clare backbones management team. This is just, I did not see this one coming at all. I thought Davy Fitz would be kind of out of the managerial game for a little while, but set to become Galway Hurling Manager. What do you make of this?
Yeah, look, it's a pretty remarkable one. I think like initially when the Galway job came free, a lot of people I nearly felt it was kind of tongue in cheek for suggesting Davy Fitz for the role, kind of. But yeah, look, I think it was clear from the county board that reappointing Micheál Donoghue was their number one choice. But like obviously he didn't have any ambition for the role again, so they've had to look elsewhere. But then again, I think a lot of people probably thought they might look within the county or stuff like that, or even kind of even the fact that kind of the connection that Eamon O'Shea's kind of had with Galway, I think a lot of people thought he might be in with a chat. But yeah, I think it is a bit surprising that Davy's ended up there. I know he's coaching in 6 Mile Bridge, like in Clare, which isn't like a million miles probably away, and he's no problem traveling up to places. Obviously, seen with Wexford, but yeah, look, it's a huge appointment. He's a big name, and look, I think the amount of kind of media kind of attention that Galway are going to get, particularly in the league next year, is going to be absolutely through the roof after this now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Davy is a character, and going to a team like Galway, could be a match made in heaven. But do you think it would be a good appointment for Galway?
Yeah, look, it's hard to know because like the Davy gets the bounce, like he always gets a bounce, and like we saw that in Wexford that there was absolutely improvements. Like it did appear to stagnate after a while. Kind of the last 2 years weren't good. The initial first year and the first 2 years, there's been huge improvements already. The question is whether he's got the backing in Galway. I know some high-profile figures in Galway, such as James Skehill, have kind of spoke out against him already. So whether he has the respect in the dressing room that he might have commanded straight away in Wexford, I'm not entirely certain. But yeah, look, he does seem to be able to motivate players for a period anyway into that. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see them kind of, with the squad that they have, kind of doing very well in first year. But whether he can maintain that, I suppose, is the question that always stands around Davy.
Exactly, and he is taking over a squad now that have won the All-Ireland more recently than he has. Going into the Waterford job, he had the experience of winning on All-Irelands as a player. Going into the Clare job, then, he was a throwback to their glory days. Going into the Wexford job, he'd won the All-Ireland as a Clare manager. He was a made man. He's going into a Galway team where there is a lot of All-Ireland winners from 2017. And it's a Galway team which kind of believe that they should be at the top. And they would already see them at the top. I mean, Galway had a terrible year last year, but they would always kind of see themselves as one of the best hurling teams in the country. Davy has kind of, his last few jobs, he's taken over, particularly with Wexford, he's taken over a team which is kind of trying to shake off their kind of underdog status.
Look, I think that's a great point because, like, yeah, all the teams that he's kind of managed to bring on, they were kind of underdogs coming into it beforehand. They especially Wexford. Wexford were coming from a particularly barren period of time, but Galway are certainly not barren. They've won multiple Leinsters recently, and they're not even that far off the All Ireland. So yeah, look, that's, I think it's a great point. Is that whether he'll be able to have the same motivational effect in players that have won everything. So yeah, look, that's the biggest challenge for him. I suppose coming in like with him is a series kind of experienced enough kind of members for the backroom staff. So look, he's going to have some very good men beside him, and yeah, particularly so he's got Michael Brown coming in as well. He was with him the whole time. It's going to be Mike Deegan as well, and Fergal Lynch as well. So it's going to be there's some very kind of big names, I suppose, coming in the backroom staff as well that worked with him in for long periods before. So yeah, look, it's going to be very, very interesting to watch anyway. And yeah, look, I think there's no doubt where what most of the articles over the winter are going to be if this ultimately proves to be the way Galway choose to go with their management.
Yeah, well, you're right about one thing. If Davy's there, it would be interesting one way or another. Again, Galway making big news on the football side. Cian O'Neill has joined Pádraig Joyce's Galway setup in the football. Again, another appointment by Galway. Cian O'Neill, he was the Kildare manager. Then he was in Ronan McCarthy's backroom team in Cork. And now he's a Galway coach. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because he's he look, as you said, he's really he's moved around kind of a lot lately between. He's had similar roles in Kerry, Mayo, Limerick, and everything. So he's and he's managed Kildare, and he even had that period under Liam Sheedy and Tipperary. So look, he does have a wealth of experience, and he's seen an awful lot of different kind of camps and stuff like that. And he's learned a lot from it. The probably concern for Galway is that if you look, he had a big say, I suppose, in the Cork footballers and how they were playing for the last kind of few years, and it probably wasn't the most expansive and kind of free-flowing style of play, I suppose. Particularly, I suppose, even the year that they did overturn Kerry, I know he was probably key in that. But the following game against Tipperary, it was a really dour style of play. And Galway, I suppose, what they've been kind of plagued by the last couple of years is a pretty dour style of play when they have the forwards and the players to kind of play a more expansive and probably more effective style of play. So I kind of question the appointment, whether it'll change much in their philosophy. So I think that would be probably the concern facing Galway football fans right now over this appointment.
Yeah, 100%. And just to get your opinion on a couple more managerial appointments since our last episode, Keith Ricken, of course, who we predicted would get the Cork senior football job, he's been named officially as the Cork senior football manager. That was announced shortly after we recorded our last episode. And Andy McEntee stayed in charge of Meath. He's there for at least next season. So what do you make of those two? Like, Keith Ricken obviously new into Cork, and Andy McEntee staying as Meath manager.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one, because I think, as opposed to kind of some of the other ones we've talked about so far that are kind of like between Davy and Cian O'Neill, which aren't being greeted with the most widespread kind of praise of the appointments, like I think the Keith Ricken one has nearly been the exact opposite. I think there's an awful lot of positivity about that appointment. I think that people were really kind of captured by that team, his underage teams, and kind of the style they played, his attitude towards the teams and everything as well. So I think there's an awful lot of positivity in Cork at the moment, and there's a belief in the county that in order to return to the top table, they need to get those. They've had a few very, very successful underage teams in a row again, and in order to kind of be back competing for All Ireland, they're going to have to produce to get those players through and get them developed into kind of quality inter-county players. And I think the belief is that there's no one better in the county than Keith Ricken to manage to kind of to help develop them. So yeah, look, I think again, it'll be an interesting one to watch. He'll probably need a few years maybe to get them up to inter-county level and competing for titles. So, but yeah, it'll be an interesting one to keep watching. And then with Andy McEntee, yeah, look, he's familiar with the squad. He's been there 6 years now, and he knows inside out. There was maybe little bit mark of progression this year. They kind of ran Dublin close, and maybe they might be looking at Dublin declining a little bit more. I might seriously eye a crack at them next year. They haven't, other than that, they haven't really pushed Dublin at all. So look, it's an interesting one. He did face a lot of kind of scrutiny in his own county, and I think it was kind of half the county board were divided over whether to keep him or to look to move on somewhere else. So it's look, he is in shaky ground a little bit, and there's going to be an awful lot of pressure on Andy McEntee this year. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one to watch, and in order to see if Meath can kind of close the gap, because there's a lot in the county ultimately by voting him in to keep him as manager believe that he is kind of the man to maybe overturn the Dubs this year.
100%. It'd be fascinating to see how both of those counties get on in 2022. Just before we wrap up, Tommy Walsh, Kerry footballer, he announced his inter-county retirement yesterday. You know, a very, very good career. He won the All-Ireland with Kerry, of course, in 2009. That was him at his best, in my opinion. He was a very exciting footballer, very exciting young footballer. Then he went to Australia for a few years, comes back, and he had a good career with Kerry. I don't think he reached the level that people were kind of hoping that he would when he came back. He definitely played a part for Kerry. I think his best year for Kerry after coming back was 2019. He came on in the semi-final against Tyrone, played fantastic in that game, really changed the game. And then Dublin in the final, you know, he did make an impact when he came in off the bench. But now he's retired. And yeah, all the best, Tommy.
Yeah, look, I think it's a really interesting one. I think that ever since he returned, initially he kind of took him a while to adapt back, but I feel that Tommy Walsh was majorly underused the last couple of years in that Kerry setup, and particularly against the Dubs in those games, that Dublin never had anyone kind of that could go man to man with him, and it was nearly getting to a situation where Philly McMahon would have to be subbed on kind of at the exact same time as Tommy Walsh. He'd have to be ready, waiting to go, because Dublin had nobody else that could kind of even get near to getting out in front of him. And even Philly as well kind of struggled with the kind of size. The size difference between the two was absolutely huge. So look, I felt that I always was surprised that Kerry didn't go with Tommy Walsh more often against the Dubs rather than just bunting him on for the last 20 minutes. Because when the ball would be kind of put in diagonally into him, even kind of running out into ball, it wasn't just that he was fielding ball. He was impossible to get out in front of as well. And I don't think that Kerry utilised a player of that kind of stature and that kind of size as effectively as they should have. Like, he was, if they used him correctly, they had an asset there that was going to consistently win them primary ball, and they should have been able to work off him. So I really think that, like, he could have easily reached the heights of that 2009 season all over again if he came back. And look, I think it could have been far more. He could have had a far more kind of interesting end to the career, I think, if probably used correctly, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a shame. And to be honest, I think Kerry should kind of look to getting him to come back in for just one more year. Now that Jack O'Connor is there, of course, he was the manager when Tommy Walsh had his best year in 2009. And I feel like if anybody would get the best out of him, it would be O'Connor. But he's gone now, and we wish him the best of luck in retirement, guys. That is the end of GAA News episode 4. We hope you enjoyed. And until next week's episode, take care.